Welcome to the fourth ever Wall Street Stonks Podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So, if people don't already know, please introduce yourself.
Yes. So my name's Luke. I'm known on TikTok as ItsStockTok. That's primarily where any of these people are probably going to know me from. I've had a number of other social media accounts and stuff, but nothing stock related until this. So I make TikToks every once in a while. Started as what you would probably call now bad stock talk, and quickly realized that was just not good at all. So now I try to make primarily comedy videos based on the current sounds and whatnot, because I think that's a lot more fun and people get a lot less angry at those. So that's a quick intro on me.
Awesome, man. First of all, I have to apologize. Every one of my videos start off by saying stock talk is toxic, and I have a full YouTube video that breaks it down. I always make fun of stock talk. I've pretty much made that my brand as the guy who's cleaning up stock talk, and every single time that I write stock talk sucks, I think to myself, oh no. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about the whole niche altogether. But I remember when I first got on TikTok and I'm scrolling through, and again, the TikTok algorithm kind of learns who you are and it starts showing me more stock videos and stuff. I stumbled upon your page, and this was when I first started my TikTok. So I had like 100 followers or something. And I saw your page and you made such good videos, and you were making like funny videos and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I followed you and I just loved your content ever since.
Thank you.
So if you're not already following ItsStockTok, you definitely should. But yeah, I remember watching all these videos, and what I thought was the most interesting part of it all was it was probably around the same time when like everyone was pouring into GameStop and all the hype around GameStop was happening, and Wall Street Bets was getting really toxic with it, and it was just blowing up and blowing up for all the wrong reasons. But then I saw your videos probably even before all of the hype talking about GameStop. And I'm like, huh, interesting. When I was a kid, I would always go to GameStop, and I would see that. I never believed in it, but I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, GameStop. Like, he's in GameStop. And you were investing in it for the right reasons. Now, I want to hear it directly from you. Why GameStop?
Yeah. Well, to touch your first point, I kind of wish I had made my account name something else, because I agree with you. The whole of stock talk is terrible. It's not good. And one of my first popular actual stock video was totally one of those, because there's formulas that you can use on TikTok to get views. Let's be real. And I just tried one of those. It's a company called C Limited. I am long on that company. I do believe in it, but it was one of those just bogus videos where it's like, oh, look at this is like the next Amazon. And I hate that I made that video, but it did so well. And that's probably why I have any followers to begin with. But for me, GameStop, there's basically two camps. There's the short squeeze camp and the actual company turnaround camp. I started investing in GameStop for the actual company turnaround camp. Obviously, that's not what it is anymore. And I think there's a lot of good fight to be had in there, because I'm still in GameStop. But I started looking at GameStop roughly in October, I would say, is when this started for me. And like you were saying, the hype started to build in December, and then January was just a train wreck. Wall Street Bets got overrun. It was terrible. They had like 10 million users, and like half of them were bots and shills, and it was an absolute nightmare. But, you know, I'm a big video game person myself. So my whole childhood, I played the DS, I played the Wii. I finally got my first PlayStation 4 was from GameStop. It was when I was like 13. I remember trading in Skylanders. If anybody remembers, though, I got in store credit for Skylanders and bought my first PlayStation, played Bloodborne, which is my favorite game of all time. All kinds of cool stuff. I loved GameStop. As I started to get into stocks, though, I came across it again in around October, and I was like, they are doing terrible. They are doing so bad. They had fallen to like $4 a share the year before, climbed back to like 10. They were basically on the brink of bankruptcy. That's where the whole short thesis came from, because rightfully so, there were a lot of companies that were like, the board of this company is driving this thing into the ground. They were not their brick and mortar stores weren't selling anything. They were keeping them in business for no reason. Like they had a bunch of locations that were completely not profitable. All kinds of bad stuff for the actual fundamental standpoint. But word came out in roughly October, November-ish, that our lovely man named Ryan Cohen from Chewy, co-founder and CEO, former, was taking an activist investor role in GameStop. And that's a whole different ballgame. He bought up initially, I think it was like 9.98% of the company. So that puts him almost at the 10% where he can do things like trigger proxy vote. And he sent a letter to the board and was basically like, listen, you guys, I know from speaking, like my own personal experience, speaking with former customers, one of the biggest things in business is brand loyalty. And you guys, as a brand, GameStop, everybody knows GameStop. And yet you are taking this company and just blowing it up. You're going to go bankrupt if you don't do anything. That's basically the end of the story. They initially didn't listen to him, so he bought more shares. I think he owns 13% now, I want to say. I think it's 9,000,001 shares, to try to wrap your head around that as a share count. Yeah. But he effectively got the board to submit to him eventually and instill him as he's not technically CEO, he's now chairman of the board, but he started doing a hostile takeover of the company. And I had just looked into some of the letters that he had written with the help of his lawyers. I looked into some of the stuff that he was looking to do with the company. I researched the stuff that he did to help get Chewy off the ground, because at the time when he created Chewy, everyone was like, you're not going to outcompete Amazon. You are trying to beat Amazon at their own game in a niche market, and that is not going to work. And he came in and he killed it. Chewy did amazing, still is doing amazing. He's not even there anymore, but he's built such a lasting brand with them that's something that I think as an investor, you have to take note of. So I was on the Ryan Cohen trade to begin with. It was a little speculative that he was actually going to do anything for a while. So, then we get into a bit of a gray territory, but just I've done research probably at least an hour a day on GameStop since October, like to this day still. So it's just something that the more I read up on it, I was like, this is such a fundamental opportunity for they became, I think they nearly became a micro cap stock. They were definitely small. They had like slipped under $1 billion market cap total, which for a company that has that big of a brand name, to me, is ridiculous. I think that's just stupid. So I found it as a really good opportunity that if they were to have some sort of business turnaround, that's a big thing for a company. Because, as a long investor, I say you don't sell until one of the only reasons that you sell a company that you're really long on is if the fundamentals of the company change. And I think the opposite could be said here. You have a company that's doing terrible and they're flipping their fundamentals in a good direction. So that's a good reason to get in early. So as far as the beginning of it went, those are the reasons why I got in GameStop. I was on the Ryan Cohen trade, and it's going well so far. If we were to remove all the short squeeze talk and like just look at everything he's done so far, he's hired multiple of his former Chewy executives, AWS executives, and people that helped to build that structure for Amazon. He hired Reggie, who was the former CMO of Nintendo, I think it was. Everybody loves that guy. He's got a superstar squad over there, and I've loved everything that they're doing so far. I would love to keep shopping at GameStop rather, because it was my childhood. It's got the brand name. If they can fix it, they got the market share. So
for sure, it's really interesting to hear the real side of it,
right?
And not hear the super hype. Let's take down the hedge funds. Let's squeeze the shorts and all those things that you'll see on Wall Street Bets. It's refreshing to hear an actual opinion on why this company should be valued more.
Right.
Which goes back to my next question is, what's your plan? What are you doing?
That is a good question. I mean, I had a number of shares at a real cheap price, obviously, because they weren't doing anything. I took profits on the way up in January because as it was squeezing, I believed in the squeeze, but I also just figured that some regulatory agency was going to do something stupid. Look what happens, all the brokerages cut off buying and the shorts tanked the price down to $100 a share in a matter of like 20 minutes, which is just awesome. But I took profits there. what I have left in GameStop, it's basically playing with house money now.
Mhm.
It's a weird thing because Wall Street Bets got infiltrated. The GME subreddit then got infiltrated. I'm now in a place called Super Stonk. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Um, and the work that people do in there is incredible. The amount of DD and like actual research, the stuff I've learned about like FINRA and the DTCC and the DTC and all that stuff it's remarkable. People don't give that enough credit. And there is a thesis, as to how shorts may be in so deep that they may not even be able to cover. But everything that I'm playing with GameStop right now is house money. And it's just weird to me to try to figure out what's going to happen with that because I like the fundamental side still. Like if we could just, it would be nice to get through this whole thing and have the dust settle a little bit. I would love to just own the company. That would be a great thing to have. So I'll probably just, one of the jokes on the subreddit because of Roaring Kitty, obviously, at one point I think he said, "What's an exit plan?" So most people don't have one, but I'm just gonna play with house money, see what happens, because either they keep it down and I continue to invest in the company because I believe in it, or something happens. Who knows where it's gonna go, and then maybe the dust settles and then I rebuy back in anyway. That's probably what I'd say about it right now.
Awesome. When you say play with house money, what are you playing? What are you doing? Are you trading? Are you holding? Are you buying more? What's going on?
Oh, it's pretty much holding. I mean, I took my profits and made out pretty well and then just put some of it back in because I held a couple shares through the tank and then it got back down to $40, which at that point, again, I was like, this is for what they're doing is just too cheap. Like that's just too small of a market cap. I don't care what else is going on. I'm gonna buy back into the company for the company. So it's basically holding. If it tanks, it's had a couple times where it's tanked a good bit and I've bought a couple more, but I don't know the last time I sold a share of it. So it's basically, buy, hold, vote is the mantra coming out of Superstock right now. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember when all the stuff with GameStop was going on, I made a few videos that said like, "Hey, be careful."
yeah,
And
and that's good advice. You got to be real careful with this because people were buying in at $480 a share, and if you're not very careful and you don't know what's happening, like you have to realize because this is an absolute battlefield. This is not trading a normal stock right now. This is an absolute war zone. So that's good advice at the time. You got to be real careful about what you're doing with this.
yeah, definitely. It's I think you nailed the nail on its head. It's not really investing if you're messing around with it. If you're buying it at 480 a share, you have to know what you're getting into. And like you said,
Yeah.
it is a war zone. It is a battlefield. It's a perfect opportunity for people who do swing trades, who might day trade it, who might scalp it. There's opportunities there. People who trade options on it, even though the options are like crazy expensive, you might
Yeah.
as well just buy the shares at that point.
Right.
So yeah, there is a lot of opportunity. My whole point was just be careful. It's easy to get a lot of FOMO when you see a stock just 1,000x. Like it's really hard to just sit there and watch all of that happen and have that discipline to say, should I get into that or should I just hold what I'm holding now? Should I let this pass? But it looks like you're in an interesting position where you don't really care what's happening. You just like the company. You like the fundamentals and you just want to keep accumulating these shares. Do you ever dollar cost average into a position or do you just buy all at once and then hold and see what happens?
It depends on where my capital is. I like the concept of dollar cost averaging. I think it's a good thing to practice because, people get so mad when they buy something and it goes down. Well, your solution to that is to keep some cash on the sideline. If you want to buy, I had a couple friends ask me about Bitcoin because Bitcoin is falling down. I was like, just in your head, however much you want to put in Bitcoin, buy 10% of that right now. Then in a week, buy another 10%. In a week, buy another 10%. It does not matter if it's gone up or down. Just slowly put your money into it because you'll buy on some ups, you'll buy on some downs. Your average cost it'll work itself out. I haven't taken a big position really in a long time. I guess my PSTH shares a little bit. I've basically been averaging into those over time as well. But it's so tough to me because one of the things that I feel like I need to talk about is one of the reasons why stock talk is so toxic. I feel like is because you can't, what I've concluded at least, you just can't have somebody tell you what to invest in, because one of the most important things when you own a position or buy into a position is you need to yourself feel confident in what you're doing, or you're not going to hold on to it. I had some friends at the very beginning of the GameStop thing. I had researched it for 3 months already. It was about to take off in January. I said, hey guys, just so you know, I'm in this and I think it's going to do well. They said, okay, we'll get on board. They bought in. It went up to $40 a share immediately. And I don't think any of them even made it past 30. They were like, oh, I'm up like 100%. I got to sell right now. And I was like, okay, that's fine. You made money, but like you just freaked out because you don't know what it is. If you don't know the play, you don't know the research, you haven't done the work yourself, no amount of convincing is going to get you to hold on to that correctly. And people just, I don't want to say that they don't want to do their own work. It is a lot of work, the research that at least I feel like I put into stuff to really be confident about it. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment, but just at least do a little bit of research. Like you got to feel confident in what you're buying. And that's why when you run around stock talk and people are like, buy this, and everyone's like, okay, like that's not very smart, I don't think.
Yeah, no, a lot of videos are I just found the next. I know we've talked about that before in the
Yeah.
comments where it's like, I just found the next this, I just found the next that. And I always like to say the next big thing is already big. Just focus on the things that you know, love, understand, see used around you all the time. And in your case, you use when you were younger, you know GameStop, you understand the company, and you can see that value in that brand name and see where it's going to go. But like you said, a lot of people don't want to do that research on their own. But what about the people who don't know where to start? How do you do research on a stock?
Yeah, that's always a question that people ask me a lot. And like I like your mantra. I love your mantra actually of buy the things that you know, because the best way to fundamentally own a company is that it's something that you use and that you enjoy. Um, there's a couple different ways you can tackle whether or not you actually think a stock is good valued. I come from an accounting background. I did a ton of accounting in high school, medaled a couple times in like state accounting competitions. So I obviously have the balance sheet side of things. Then you can look at that from, is this company fair valued? What are they doing with their cash? Obviously that's not for everybody. So what you can really, my best advice would be to stick to what your mantra there is. You gotta look at stuff that you like using. And you made a great video. I don't remember how long ago it was. You like picked up your phone. You're like, oh, this is my Apple phone. I'm going to use it to order my Uber. And then I'm going to call somebody using my whatever. Like that's companies that you understand, because, one of the whole things for people investing long-term is that the S&P 500 has averaged a 10% return since, what was it, 1930. So if you're buying companies that you think are going to continue to do well, because nobody knows anything. I'm not gonna. If anybody looks at you and says, "I know where this company is going to be in 10 years," and they're lying to you. But if you buy stuff that you really use and you can see a future for in the future for them doing well, then I'd say there's a decent chance that, over the course of 10 years, again, if you're willing to commit to that company, you can't just buy it and look at it in a week. It's probably going to be down and you're probably not going to be very happy. But that's the simplest thing that I tell my friends that don't have any background at all, because, the hardest thing that I've gotten dealt with a lot of people is they just don't have any idea where to start. They don't know what to do. Like it just seems daunting at first. The best thing that you can do, in my opinion, is just get in, find companies that you like in your real life, and just, do some baseline research. You don't have to do anything crazy. You can just look around on Yahoo Finance, see what YouTube is a great resource as well. I learned all my investing information through YouTube. I never took an investing class in high school. I'm starting my finance degree in college, but everything that I know has been completely self-taught so far. And I started with, I think it was Andre Jick, the dividend growth investment portfolio videos. And then I started watching Trading Fraternity because, who doesn't have their their good old trading fraternity kick? And you just pick up stuff, things that people look at. You see what other people do. These people are around for a reason. Whether or not you like some of the strategies they use, that's up to you. But you can pick up on things that other people do. And the most important thing is to then take that and mold it to your own personal, people like to say, risk tolerance.
Mhm.
Just, you got to understand the way that you operate. If it goes back to if you're not making decisions that you're comfortable with, you're not going to stick with those decisions.
Yeah, 100%. You could buy the same stock I do, but at the end, we might have completely different results. And it all just comes down to that risk tolerance for sure. Um, going back to research, though, how often do you use what you're learning in school?
As far as the accounting stuff, it's more than I thought it would be, because
Mm.
I did a couple intro classes in high school, and it was always like, okay, I can make journal entries and look at book stuff. Like, that's cool. And if I'm going to be an accountant, what does that mean for me at all? But as I started taking a couple courses in college, you really just, they always push that accounting is the language of business. And it sounded really corny at first, still sounds pretty corny, but if you can understand the way that a company's balance sheet works, if you can understand the transactions that they're making on a daily basis, you got to dig into what the business does, like how they make revenue, where they're spending money, like what is R&D, like what are their expenses. It's not it's really not that advanced. You could take one or two accounting classes and really just get that baseline knowledge. But if you're able to look into that, somebody can suggest me a company, they'd be like, hey, can you look at this for me? And I'll just skim through their balance sheet and I'll say, okay, well, here's what their cash looks like. It looks like they're spending a lot of money on this. What might that be going towards? Are they lurking a lot on research and development? Are they trying to make new products? It's just depending on the research that you're doing. Obviously, I've gotten into more of a comfort zone where I pick one or two companies and I really just deep dive. And at that point, it just becomes you're picking up every single piece of information that you can. So, you bob and weave between technical stuff versus not. But if you're just looking for companies every once in a while, I want to see, should I add this to my portfolio? How's this company doing? It's a lot more helpful than I honestly thought it would be. But the tough thing about the school system is you have to find that niche. I feel like it's very difficult for them to streamline you into that. I took an accounting class almost by accident in high school and found out that I really liked it and just started doing business. But you're bouncing all over the place. And if I hadn't streamlined myself as much into accounting and finance, then I don't know that that would have helped me as much. Because if you're taking just like, I took like a biz law class this year and that was like cool, but I don't know that I really got a ton out of that.
Right. So you said you like to focus on a few stocks when you're doing your research. Outside of GME, what else are you looking at?
My big one is PSTH. I know we've had a couple common exchanges about that one. And that's a SPAC. So for anybody that doesn't know SPACs, the SPAC market's kind of a mess, but it's a special purpose acquisition company. What they do is they basically offer up an amount of capital to write as a blank check for a company that's not currently public. It's an alternative to an IPO, and they help them become a publicly traded company through a reverse merger. The whole SPAC bubble craze that I feel like is kind of coming to an end by this point. It's died down a good bit. There was a good while where you could just buy any SPAC and you would probably make money as long as you sold before their merger date, which is kind of dumb, but playing the field that you're in, I guess. PSTH though, to me, since I started researching it, has been very different than those because it's headed by Bill Ackman, who has just a laundry list of accomplishments and career history. That's a big thing to latch onto. And that's another piece of advice as far as research goes that I can give people. I feel like is I'm really into researching people. You can look at the companies, but when you're looking at companies, look at their executives. Like, are there people on their board that are making decisions for them that have done well in the past or that you like? Because that's where the GameStop stuff started with Ryan Cohen. That's why I'm so far in on PSTH with Bill Ackman. That's understanding the company on a fundamental level. Not only what do they do with their products and customers, but like who is making the decisions, because at the end of the day there's somebody up there that's making decisions. If you don't like that person, it's probably not going to be a good investment. But PSTH is probably my big one right now, other than GameStop. I think those are definitely my two biggest positions. And the normal SPACs usually IPO at $10 a share, so they can offer up $2 billion in capital. PSTH came in and I think it was 20 to offer up $4 billion as a blank check. They have a number of interesting things. We could talk about the speculation on the target all we want to. Nobody knows what it is, and we're not gonna until he announces. But they've made it pretty clear that you obviously have an interesting team with Bill Ackman and Jackie Reese's, who used to work for Square. That's the company, which is another company I'm invested in. So you have a good team. They have a warrant structure, which is I think it's the 2/9 warrant structures. For every 9 shares you own, you get 2 warrants at the time of merger date. So there's a long-term incentive. They've made it. Bill also said that people that own PSTH will get access at NAV for PSTH2, which means you'll be able to buy that at basically IPO price, which is almost impossible otherwise. So he's doing a lot of things to incentivize long-term, which goes directly in the opposite direction of what all the other SPACs are doing. Mm-hmm. So, and at face value, it looks like, oh, PSTH SPAC, it'll probably pop and then dump. That's just the SPAC formula. But this is, again, getting into, what type of long-term incentives are they offering? What are the things that they're looking for in a target acquisition company? It's kind of interesting to research a company like that, because you're researching a company that's researching companies. It's kind of this weird, I don't even know what to call it, inception type investing thing, because I'm investing in Bill Ackman's ability to sign a good deal, basically.
Nice.
So that's been my thesis on that for a long time. And there's obviously some really cool targets that they could come up with, but I'm of the opinion that basically anything that he signs will at least be of a good value, share price and market cap wise. He'll get a good valuation on it. So that's my other big one at the moment.
That's a really good way of putting it. I actually never thought of it that way. You are investing in Bill's ability to make a good investment. And there's no real other way to invest like that.
Yeah.
Unless you're investing in something like GameStop if you like the CEO. But no, that's super interesting. So what's your plan with that SPAC though? Because so we've seen tons of SPACs come out. One that I was actually in, a GHIV that turned into UWMC. And that actually was the biggest SPAC ever. UWM is the biggest mortgage lending company in the world. And they did that reverse merger with the SPAC GHIV, and then the ticker became UWM. UWMC? Yeah, UWMC. So they went up a little bit, but there was just so much hype around it. I don't know what, it just eventually started to go down. And obviously there's a lot of other outside influences that make stocks go up and down. It's not always just that company, but there was a lot of hype that led to the expectations not being met, I guess, and then the stock going down. So we've seen that formula a lot in SPACs. If you start to see something like that happening with them, I guess it kind of depends on the target. I don't know. Essentially, my question is, what is your plan for when they announce the target? And then what's your plan for when they actually go through with a merger?
Yeah. So it might be my a little naive of me to say, but I think this is a bit of a different situation, because I think the problem with the mishype on a lot of the SPACs is you have this blank check holding company, and the second they get in talks with a company to sign with, that information is leaked. That's where the whole run up is, because they have a run up and then it's officially announced that they're targeting, and it'll dip a little bit because, and you think, why would it dip on an announcement? Well, people have known that for a while already. So it's buy the rumor, sell the news at that point. And then it runs up towards merger date, and again, merger goes through, buy the rumor, sell the news, and it dips again. That's the pattern I've noticed for a lot of the SPACs.
Exactly.
A thing that a lot of the PSTH people are actually annoyed with Bill Ackman for is that he has said almost nothing for like 7 months about
Mm.
this. We know that he's talking to companies, and that's about it. Everything else that people would tell you on target speculation is complete guessing and trying to just like pickpocket stuff off of Twitter interactions. He has not said a single thing. There are no legitimate rumors about contracts being signed. So I'd expect a better reaction to the actual DA announcement. And at that point, it depends a lot on what the target is. The good thing, I own a lot of shares, and then I also own a couple options just because I'm stupid and I had extra money from GameStop and wanted to have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a couple quite long dated options, and then I have a couple pretty short ones and a lot of shares. I'm probably going to hold on to the shares irregardless of who the target is because of the long-term incentives that he's offered. I'd like the warrants, and I'd really like access to PSTH too.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's ever offered that before, which is one of the reasons why I like this so much. So I'm probably going to hold on to the shares irregardless of target. Obviously, if it's something that I really just don't believe in fundamentally, then you got to evaluate it from a fundamental standpoint. It always comes back to that. If you don't believe in the company, why would I own it? The options are going to be a bit of a train wreck. I'm probably going to sell the short dated ones pretty quickly after merger because I can't imagine that the IV crush on that would not be terrible. And then probably hold on to some of the long dated ones because that's just a good, leverage of capital at that point. But
Yeah.
I obviously believe in his ability to sign off with a target, and I just think he'll get something at a decent valuation that I'll like because almost all of the speculated targets I think are pretty cool. The worst that could probably come out of it right now based on speculation is Subway. That sounds kind of boring to me, but like on the hype end, you have like Stripe, you have Starlink, you have Bloomberg, you have companies like that. Just the way that he phrases it is just absolute unicorns of companies. And he's dropped a couple. The only things that he said every once in a while, he said that the proof is in the pudding and that he thinks the time spent on negotiation will be worth it for both himself and everybody that's investing in the thing, which obviously he's not going to come out and say it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So sorry. But the other thing is there's just so little attention on PSTH that I don't know why that's a thing, because I believe I want to say there's 9,000 people in the PSTH subreddit total, which is just nothing.
Right.
And then just on various social media outlets, I just don't see people talking about it. I follow a couple people on Twitter that are just big time investors, and one of them, he has been in PSTH since it came out, and he's just been averaging in. And I have no idea how much capital this guy has, but it's got to be millions and millions of dollars because he used to be a Wall Street guy, I think, and he's just it's following those type of people. But there's just not a lot of coverage on this, and it's just not got the hype. So I like the potential there. Yeah, I'm surprised, honestly, and that's the one thing that I've really tried to figure out with PSTH is why is nobody talking about it? Because it's trading at like $24 a share right now, I want to say, and that is just hardly even above where it IPO'd at. So you would figure your risk at that point is pretty low. I don't know why it's just stagnating so much, but
worst case, you lose half your money. I don't
know.
Not
even.
Yeah, but especially because it is shares. Well, I mean, minus your options that could go to zero.
The options are. I'm aware of those. I'm playing with fire there, and that's money that you throw into the fire already. So that's a different story. But
usually you can't go wrong with just holding shares. And you're investing in Bill's ability to invest in something. I just love the way you said that. So I like that. It all comes down to who he wants to acquire. Has he said anything about industry at all?
He's kind of, but like not specific enough that we can like I know he like really likes the fintech space.
Okay.
Which is why there's a lot of talk about a Stripe or a Plaid, like one of those type of companies. Because he's very clearly excited about that space. He did an interview. I don't think it was an interview. He does like contests and things and like talks with like Harvard Business School and like Columbia Law School and stuff. And in one of them, I think it was like a business presentation challenge or something. and somebody presented a fintech type company, and he just interjected at one point and started talking about Stripe with just the biggest shit eating grin I've ever seen. And he was so cheesing about it. And I was like, that's interesting to watch, because he's just very, very passionate about that space, clearly. So, and I think it would be great to get into the fintech space exposure through this SPAC, because it's a very growing industry. But
I love fintech.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I would not like it if it became another EV.
Oh yeah, no, I highly doubt it's going to be that, because he's not. One of the important things to him is he wants. I don't remember how he phrased it. Predictable cash flow, I think it was. And I cannot imagine that he would look at any single EV company in the entire world and see predictable generative cash flow through some of those. Like, there's companies that, like, when Lucid went through their whole like merger thing, they hadn't even like produced a car yet. Like, them and Neo both were just like, well, we have cars, we don't like sell any yet, but it's gonna be good, trust us. EV. So he's looking for predictable cash flow, a unicorn of a company, a good balance sheet, cash on hand. Because he's always been one of the, and the reason why I liked him to begin with is he's always followed that fundamental model very well in the things that he holds in his own hedge fund. Because PSTH, Pershing Square Holdings, is his holdings company, and he's in companies like Starbucks, Lowe's, like companies like that have done well over a long period of time, and not hype EV plays.
Yeah.
So
man, when CCIV, Churchill Capital, I don't know when it started, but when it did, my TikTok was disgusting. The amount of comments I would get, CCIV to the moon. I'm like, why? That's the only thing I respond to any of these companies. Why?
Yep.
Explain.
That's probably the best thing to respond.
Yeah, and like 95% of the time, I would not get an answer back. 5% of the time, yeah, and then 5% of the time, I would get an answer back, and it would say, well, they're gonna acquire Lucid, and then it's gonna be the next Tesla. And then I would respond and say, have you ever seen a Lucid motor before, like on the road? And then they would say, no, like, but it will be
but they will.
Yeah, but they will. And I'm like, okay, I would rather be late than wrong, first of all. So I would rather pay a premium. I would rather buy Tesla more expensive.
Agreed.
I see Teslas all around. I have 2 of them. It's like, why would you want to invest in something that you've never touched, never seen, never heard of before this stock?
You've never been in one. You've never seen one. If you asked any of your friends, they have never been in one or seen one.
What if it smells really bad and nobody wants it? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors that you don't even think about. You could just look at the fundamentals. You can look at the math. You can look at the accounting. You can look at the marketing. You could look at if the car looks cool in renderings and pictures. But if you've never sat in it and smelled it, what if, like that's a legitimate concern. So my point is, I would never buy CCIV because it might smell bad. But with PSTH, it's super interesting because nobody knows what's going on. And I think that's pretty unique. I kind of like that. I'm going to look into it. You always comment on my videos saying, like, hey, you should look into PSTH. I'm like, bro, I don't know what that is. Like,
Every time you have, like, what stocks are you in? I'm always like, PSTH, and you're like, I don't know what that is.
I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. It's just another SPAC, but I think you did a good job pitching it, and I think it's really interesting. I'm gonna look into it more.
I've practiced on accident my sales pitches on GameStop and PSTH so many times, just because people end up asking me about them. Because they know that I got into investing, they know I enjoy doing it, they see my videos, and they're like, well, what is this stuff? So
do you have videos on PSTH?
I don't think I have videos on PSTH. I made one video, and this might be one of the GameStop ones you saw,
Mm.
because I had one of my good mutuals on TikTok. His name is RD Film 7. So I hope he's watching this. Love the guy. He made a super cool like montage video for Wall Street Bets
Oh, I
when the whole
saw
thing was
that.
going on.
The video's
So
awesome.
that was him. Love the guy. And he commented, or he tagged me in something, and he was like, this had to have been like mid-November.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you have a $600 stimulus check. What are you putting it in right now? So I made a response video to that, and I said, I am splitting it 50-50. The first $300 is going into GameStop. The second $300 is going into PSTH. I think that's the only video I've made on PSTH, but I gave my quick 30-second pitch on why that was.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it was a very abbreviated version of this, but I've had that video up since, and I duetted it when GameStop spiked the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a bunch of people that were like, oh my God, you were invested in this when it was $15 and now it's
Mm-hmm.
like 450. And I'm like, yes, like that's correct, but I was in it for the right reasons. And a bunch of you are now going to try to probably run off to it and buy it at like $400 a share and then lose all your money. And what the funniest thing to me about that is, and we'll see if this plays out in my favor later, but people have entirely neglected the second half of that video. I don't know that anybody's even watched the second half of that video other than RD Film 7 and myself. I don't know that anybody else has seen the second half of it. And it's my entire pitch on PSTH. So if PSTH does well eventually, like I think it will, obviously, I will be able to go back to that video and say, all right, all of you, I made a good call like one time on like a SPAC or something. I think it was QuantumScape I was invested in because I was just playing the whole pump and dump thing. And I flipped like a quick like 200% on that. And people are like, God, where are these videos like before the stuff comes out? Like you're supposed to tell me like before it happens. I'm going to go back to that video. I'm going to say, listen, I gave you my thesis in a 30-second pitch in November. You have had 6 months to get into this thing and you just didn't listen.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do the research yourself. You didn't look it up, because I don't want you to take me at face value and just buy it. That's not what I'm here for. I want to pitch this to you and you say, this is interesting. I'm going to go look into this. But that's not on me.
Yeah, no, that the reason why I asked if you had any of those PSTH videos is because I love your essentially I told you so videos where you duet yourself and you show what you said before and what it is now. And a lot of Stock Talk neglects the follow up. A lot of people make great calls. A lot of people make garbage calls. I've had both, where I put out a video that says like, "Hey, I just bought this play, just for educational purposes. This is what I did. This is how I apply the things that I've learned that I teach on my TikTok. This is how I'm applying it." And then, let's say 50% of the time, that play will go to zero, and I'll make a follow up that say, "Hey, that didn't work. I had a really bad one with IBM. It was an earnings play, and it was like a couple $100 on an option, and it wasn't like the worst concept, but it didn't go in my favor. So regardless of Ivy Crush, it just didn't work. And then that was just a really bad one. So I made a follow-up video that said like, ouch, that wasn't a good play, but this is what I learned. But on the flip side, I had a Disney earnings play, and the Disney one skyrocketed like 500-600%. And I had people commenting saying like, holy crap, I bought like $1,000 worth of these. I'm like, whoa.
Like, yeah, let's hit the brakes. Maybe
I bought one. Like I risked $100. Like, why are you buying 1,000? So it's kind of scary to talk about what stocks I'm buying because I don't know what people are doing with their money. So I feel like a huge sense of responsibility when I put out content like that. And I was wondering if you ever feel, I was going to see like how you feel about content.
And, you know, part of the reason why I just started making a bunch of comedy videos is I've had a couple snafus where like I had this series for a little while that I don't know what I called it, even like Let's Talk About It or something, where I'd just like present a stock and I'd be like, whatever. Not a recommendation, and half of them I wasn't even in, and people would just be like, this is a terrible recommendation, this went to zero, whatever. I'm like, it wasn't a recommendation and I don't own it. I don't know why you would buy it, and you didn't even comment on my video the first time when you saw it. So I don't know I don't know what you're talking about, but I had that. And then I had one time where I streamed into one of the GameStop earnings calls. And it was just funny to me that companies this advanced just like I pulled up their web page and it was just like this dinky box in the corner of the screen. And I was like, you can't like hire an IT person to just make it look a little bit better. And I
Mhm.
had people coming at me like, oh, this kid's never gone to an earnings report. Like he has no idea what this is. I was like, okay, I've listened to plenty of earnings reports before. Like I'm familiar with the concept. I'm
Mhm.
making like this is the first one that I've live streamed into,
Yeah.
which is the point that I'm making. I've listened to all of them in the past. This is the first one that I've attended live, and I just think it's amusing that it looks this bad.
Yeah.
And then people were like, "This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Like he's never been to an earnings call. This guy's just stupid. Like terrible recommendation, worst thing I've ever seen." And it's just like it shouldn't annoy me that much, but it just gets to the point where I'm like, I just feel like they feel like personal attacks somewhat, but also I just feel like I'm all of a sudden just responsible for all these people's decisions. And that's
Mhm.
just a lot more weight than I'm trying to bear
Yeah.
for what it is. So I went a lot to the comedy videos because, you know, I can make jokes as much as I want to. And those are, as far as I'm concerned, very clearly not recommendations.
Mhm.
I'll make a joke on I've made jokes on both sides of many things. Like I'll buy something and then I'll make a joke for it and a joke against it because there's a lot of times, pretty much every time, there's a thesis in both directions because every time you take a trade, somebody's on the other side.
Mhm.
So there's a thesis on both sides. So I'll make a joke in multiple directions. I was planning to make a joke actually about like a self-awareness type joke. Maybe I'll make the video eventually if I find the right audio about these people that are all obsessed with GameStop because it's just whatever. I've had so many comments on my videos lately. One of the recent ones I uploaded where it's like a guy said POV, you buy GameStop and you think you're a sick trader. And I was like, all
Scroll
right, I've
down.
been invested in GameStop since
Yeah.
November. I'm just not going to say anything. I don't need to, whatever. Like, it's just, there's just so much stuff going on Stock Talk that people just want. They want a 30-second digestible version of something that they can just copy. And
Yeah.
I don't really want to cater to that market. So I really think GameStop and PSTH are the only two things I've actually talked about lately that I'm invested in.
Mhm.
Everything else is just, you know, I'm going to invest in it and whatever, because if I go make a video on it, I'm going to have a bunch of people just all of a sudden copying my investment. And I'm like, well,
Yeah. Good luck.
those are the two things that I'm most invested in, meaning that I'm the most confident. So
Mhm.
I feel like not only can I make a video on it and say I'm personally confident in this, again, do not just copy me because that's just dumb,
Mhm.
but I can also just I can field any question that somebody asks me in the comment section. I feel ready for that. So I guess maybe that's a personal thing that I feel good about when I make those type of videos.
Yeah.
But it's so hard for me to just like be like, oh, here's a new thing that I'm invested in, because people are just like, all right, I put my entire life
Yeah.
savings into it.
All right, I'm all in.
You got me, right? And I'm like, no, I do not got you. What are you doing?
Yeah. So you've made that transition into a little bit more comedy videos instead of play videos. Why do you make videos in the first place?
I love content creation. Um, it started for me back in, I want to say it was 2015. I started a YouTube channel. It was a gaming YouTube channel because what else is a 13, 14 year
Mhm.
old gamer kid going to do than make a gaming YouTube channel? That's just the natural progression during the 2010s was to do that. Started making Madden Mobile videos of all things. There was a Madden Mobile YouTuber that I watched at the time. At the end of one of his videos, it was like his 200,000 subscriber special. And he was like, the only reason I made this channel is because I watched somebody else make videos on this and was like, that's not very good. I could do better. So if you're thinking the same thing, then just do it. So I was like, might as well try. Um, so I started making those videos. I had one that got 30,000 views, one of those Mad Mobile videos. And in YouTube land, especially in like 2016, that's a lot of views.
Mhm.
Very difficult to garner viewership on YouTube is what I've noticed. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
seen the same thing with your podcast. I love TikTok for the fact that it's like so digestible easily and you can reach so many more people. The YouTube algorithm I've been trying to crack for running on 6 years now, and I don't know what's happening still. That thing is just the biggest mystery to me of all time, but it's okay because I just like making YouTube content for making it. So I
Mhm.
did well on that video, eventually transitioned into a Rocket League channel is what I became, which is still a game that I play a lot to this day. Probably not as good as I should be, given that I've played it since launch pretty much. But I started doing crate opening videos. So also screw you, Psyonix, for taking those out of the game, or Epic Games, I guess. I understand why, but it was fun. And then I took a break for one of my golf seasons. Fun fact for anybody that's curious, if you leave your audience hanging for 3 to 6 months, do not expect them to be there when you come back. Learned that one the hard way. Tried to come back and do it again. Did not work. But we can go back to the self-taught thing, because I had no idea how to make videos at all. So I just resorted to YouTube. I taught myself video editing. I downloaded a free program that ended up being pretty good that I still use. I should probably get better software, but it's a program that's been free the whole time. It's called Lightworks. And I've used that literally since I started. So I just fell in love with video editing primarily. That's the thing that I like the most. Because after that YouTube channel, I started to use it a bunch for school projects, which if you have any interest at all in video editing or whatever, and you have cool teachers or professors, it's not very hard to convince them to let you make a video for something. And it's way more fun than writing a paper. So I had 2 accounting raps that I made. The second one did pretty well. It made its rounds around the community. Local CPAs were like, this is super cool. I was like, oh, that's better than I thought this was going to do. So I did those for final exams. We had a ton of Spanish projects that we made videos for, tried to make it all cinematic, whatever. And it's so fun to me to edit those things. And, I could put the stupid effects in the gaming videos, the sounds and the lights and the words flashing across the screen all over the place, try to make it look like the least tacky possible. And I just had a lot of fun with that. And then I eventually made the Gizmo Investing YouTube channel. I made that channel, which I don't think I've posted to in multiple months. Reasons for that, probably primarily just because I don't have recommendations for people. And the YouTube videos that stock investors are basically, yeah, the stock people on YouTube are the same thing as the stock people on StockTok. It's just more long form, so it looks more put together. And I just, I made a couple series for a while where it was oh, here's my stocks for the month, whatever. But then I had 3 months in a row where it was just the same 3 stocks. And I was like, this is the exact fundamental investing that I want to be doing, but nobody wants to watch this. And that's one of the questions really for people that want to make videos, by the way, is that I ask myself is, would I, as somebody scrolling by this, watch this at all? Because if the answer is no, then I'm not even going to make it, because I don't think it's worth my time. I don't want to waste anybody else's time, because it's just, if it's not good content, then it's not good content. So basically though, I made that channel, played around with different forms of video creation and editing. And the reason why I love TikTok so much is it's just so accessible to people. It's just I think it's a lot easier. You don't need an editing software. You don't need, I have this blue snowball microphone with a pop filter. I ordered a webcam, which you don't really need. If you have a functional laptop and AirPods, you can make videos. But in order to make the video game content, you got to get an Elgato. I needed 78 billion different adapters to get game audio, party audio, my audio. It's kind of a nightmare to actually produce good YouTube videos, in my opinion. Once you figure it out, it's plenty fun, but the technology, the smart stuff is pretty dumb sometimes. So when you just hop on TikTok, they make it so easy. You can just pick a sound. The editing effects are actually pretty solid for how easy it is, in my opinion. And it's just so accessible to people. So I didn't want to download TikTok actually when it first came out. I was going to be one of those. I was going to be one of those people that was oh, TikTok, I'm too cool for that, because I'm on YouTube, so I have it better. And I had never downloaded. I was too late for Vine, so I never had that either. I watched all the Vine comps on YouTube, so I know all of them, but I never actually had the app. So I was like, I don't know about this short form content. I feel like I'm too cool for this. But I finally downloaded it, and I just loved the app. I was like, the algorithm is so much easier to figure out. It gives people that have no following a chance to go viral. And it happens a lot. The way that the algorithm pushes the content is one of the best I've ever seen in these social media platforms. So I think it's just one of the most accessible to people. And I really I really appreciate that about TikTok. I was a little concerned when TikTok was going to die there for a while. Because I was like, this is good for people, I feel like, honestly.
Yeah, I remember when all that TikTok drama was going on. That's when my page was growing. I'm like,
Hmm.
no, I just, I just,
Don't kill me now.
yeah, I just started. But yeah, no, it's a really powerful tool. It's a really powerful platform, and it's exciting to see people with no following able to create content, because everybody could have valuable content if they
Yeah.
applied whatever they're passionate about. And it's exciting to see people like you and other people who take what they're passionate about and create videos and share it with the world, and giving everybody that equal ability to get exposure, in my opinion, is very important. um what's your plan with your TikTok moving forward? I know you're making these comedy videos. Are you just going to keep that up? Like, what's your brand? What are you all about?
That's a good question that I should probably come up with a better answer to for myself, even. Um, I'd like to talk about more of the stock stuff, like recommendation. Obviously, it's not recommendations, but like we'll call them
Mm-hmm.
plays wise. Um, I just at the moment, I just don't want to feed into the people just leeching off of things without doing any research.
Mm-hmm.
So, I my primary use for TikTok right now is the content that I enjoy on there a lot is the comedy stuff. Like there's a lot of stock pages that I follow and I really enjoy those. But I think some of the most digestible stuff for people is that comedy content. And I hit these little niches, like obviously comedy videos about GameStop or PSTH is such a limited subset of people. So I'm basically trying to find my balance in between the plays videos, the comedy videos, trying to like make it broad enough that I'm not targeting just the most specific niche of all time, because obviously that's not going to do very well because they project it out to like 100 however many people, and if I don't hit like 100 GameStop people immediately, then the video's not going to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm basically just
Definitely.
trying to find that lane, that sweet spot in between those two things. um I love making videos, and there's so many good audios that come up because every like social media platform, every like YouTube, Instagram, whatever, all goes through. It's like it all has phases of memes, basically, is what I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones on TikTok phase out so quickly. They
Mm-hmm.
go in and out so fast, but they're all of them are so funny. Like I think people do very well on that app. I think there's a lot of funny people on that app that get stuff in and out pretty quick. So it begs itself and lends itself to a lot of opportunity when it comes to that. So I like that a lot from that type of comedy video standpoint. But I'll have to find that alley more specifically, because I need to produce videos at a higher clip. That's just a fact. But I know in one of the podcasts, I think it might have been the first one, he was talking about how you put out so many videos that are such high quality still. And I totally agree with that, because the volume at which you produce content, I think, is amazing, because it's so hard for me to put out something that I'm like happy with and then like immediately go make another video. Because I'm so like, are people gonna watch this even? So I give you a lot of credit for being able to do that, and I gotta try to get into that lane.
Oh, thank you. No, my whole idea is, if anyone ever asks me what's my brand, I've narrowed it down to 3 words. It's free, fun, and educational.
Yep.
And everything I do kind of revolves around that. So I'd suggest to you to narrow it down to a few words.
Hmm.
Who are you? What's your brand? Why do you make videos? Really focus on the why.
Yeah.
If it's to entertain, then yeah, you can keep creating these comedy videos and establish a following of people who are interested in just that. Because it can get pretty taxing if you just keep watching educational videos. It can get taxing if you just keep watching play videos, because you're going to run out of money. You're not going to always be investing in all
Right.
of these things. And sometimes you just need that comedic relief. Sometimes you want jokes in your niche. Like, I love finance jokes, as
Hmm.
dad jokes as it gets. Like
Right.
stock market jokes, I love them.
Yeah.
And it's because that's what I'm passionate about. And I like mixing these things to create entertaining content, not necessarily like funny, but like at least enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
And that's my whole goal with everything. So outside of that, I don't put much more thought into it. I don't get stuck with analysis paralysis where I'm stuck overthinking like, is this good? Are people going to watch this? I don't care. I'm just going to put it out. And then if they watch it, great. If not, whatever. One of my most successful videos, not the most successful, but up there, it was literally a picture of a tweet over like me walking, and it got like 1.1 million views. And I'm like, that okay,
like okay,
like
yeah,
that,
sure,
yeah, like
whatever.
that took like 25 seconds to make. It was ridiculous. But like there are other videos where I'll spend an hour writing a script, thinking about it, getting the B-roll for it, filming like my computer setup, this chart like this, and then like my whole idea behind it, and I put so much time and effort into it, and then it'll get like 1,000 views, and I'm like, yes,
awesome.
Like it didn't get the right people at the right time or whatever it is, but that's okay. And that's my whole mentality on it. It's like, I don't really care. So just keep getting content out there. And I just do it because I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
Like you mentioned, that whole aspect of creating, especially for something that you're passionate about and things that you love, it's just fun. And that's why I do it. I just recently made this YouTube like 3 months ago. And I remember you commented saying like, let me know how it goes, or like, let me know how you can crack the code. And I remember I looked at your YouTube, you've had it for years, and it's just a matter of getting content out there, but YouTube won't help you out. That's what I've noticed. Like YouTube will not push your content like TikTok does. So I come from a marketing background. Everything I do, I focus on marketing. I'm like, how can I get people off of the easier TikTok and get them onto the harder YouTube? It's exactly my plan, and that's what I always do at the end of my videos. Check out my YouTube for more. It's always stuff like that to drive that funnel, drive that sales funnel to get people into the YouTube where I want them to ultimately go, because I create longer form content there that's more educational. I can dive in deeper. So I essentially use TikTok as a hook, YouTube as the main content. And even like from this podcast, I might take a like 15-20 seconds of it, put it on my TikTok, and drive traffic to the YouTube for people to watch this long form thing. So that's how I do it. It's interesting to hear everyone's plans on content creation, because everyone's so different.
It is important to make it just because you enjoy it, though, because if you're making stuff, I've had a couple different phases in my YouTube where I'm specifically making videos to try to get views, and that's just not even fun anymore. Like I very strictly started making all the videos I post on TikTok right now are I would say primarily because I think they're funny. Like I make it and I'm like, yeah, I enjoy this, and then I post it. Like you said, if it gets views, then great. If not, then I'll just make another one. That's the nice thing about TikTok, is it's so easy and so quick that if you upload something and it just flops and you're like, oh, whatever. I've had YouTube videos that I spent like, I think the longest I spent on a YouTube video was maybe a couple days of editing's worth, and uploaded it and it got like 80 views, and I was just so disappointed because I was like, this took me so long and nobody's even going to see it. I'm not even going to get bad feedback on it because nobody's going to see it. Like nobody can hate it if they don't see it. At least give me something. But it's important to make it for the right reasons, and I'm basically just trying to push myself to get on it more, because I'm trying to keep myself busy in life in general with, golf and gym memberships and everything, but I gotta cater to the audience and have some fun with it sometimes.
Yeah, everything's about balance. And I know you like to golf, you like video games, you like lifting and exercising, and you got all of that. I know you got your school as well. You have this TikTok that you create really funny content, but you also have your YouTube. It's just kind of brainstorming what kind of videos would you like to see on YouTube, and just make them. Don't put too much time into it. Don't put too much thought into it. Just get content out there. You get better over time through experience, and then it'll just grow from there. But it's awesome to see. On the note of the YouTube algorithm, though, can you just tell people to like the video? Because I I always start off all my videos and say like, hey, like hit that like button, like show me that you love it. I want to see what it's like if you tell them. Maybe you can like practice your abilities and stuff. Just it's worth a try if you want to go ahead.
Listen, everybody, do me and my boy Wall Street Stonks here a favor. All right. I know you see that like button over on the side of your screen. All right. Just slide over there real quick. Just give it a nice little tap. All right. Just doing both of us a favor. If you enjoy it, do us a favor and like it. If you don't enjoy it, like it anyway. Please. Just go and toss it a like. All right. Just do me a solid, please.
Do you think they did it yet?
I hope they. If they didn't do it, we're gonna have a stern talking to. I think
so too.
I'm gonna be a little disappointed. I even asked nicely.
Did. I see it. They did it.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you spending an hour of your day talking to me, a random stranger that you just comment on random videos on TikTok, and now we're best friends. So
yeah,
I really appreciate you taking the time. I have some homework to do in GME and PSTH now. Not a recommendation, but
nope.
I will do my own research. I hope to see some...
As everyone else should if they like it, the concept.
I hope to see more PSTH content on your TikTok too. I'm actually
I'll find a way to get that in there. I gotta talk about that more.
So you can make those I told you so videos once it blows up. Look forward to it.
Yeah, I appreciate the time. It's been nice getting to know you through the page for a long time now, it feels like. And I was looking forward to finally getting to talk to you through the podcast. So I'm glad this is a thing that we can like chat with each other now. So it's been a pleasure.
I look forward to the next one. And that's
yes,
a wrap.
Sir.
All right.